Hi there, this is State Representative Roger Bruce, and you caught me in process trying to get it all together here. Just went on a tour of the new city of South Fulton. We added some new areas, and the mayor kept me out past my time. I kept telling him I had to get back, but he wanted me to see all the new areas. So, anyway, let's go ahead and get started by letting my colleagues talk about, whatever they want to say before we introduce our guests and move forward.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Under the Gold Dome. I am State Senator Sonia Halpern, representing the 39th District. Glad to be back with you again this week. It has actually been, for the three of us, Representative Bruce and Representative Bazemore and myself, an extremely exciting week. And I'm sure that we're going to get to it, but it has been an exciting week. Representative Bruce just mentioned South Fulton. Earlier today, Representative Bazemore and I were out in East Point with some good news there coming out of the session and the governor's signing period. So we've got two extremely exciting bills that got signed by the governor on Monday, that final trigger date. And so it's been a great week. So we'll talk about those things, and we'll talk about some other things as well. Welcome back.
So good afternoon again on another Friday under the Gold Dome. Thanks for tuning in. And we are so excited again to come to you, as my colleague said, with some good news that affects all of our districts and our constituents. And we are happy that we were able to get some of these bills across the finish line, especially since we had a most difficult session this year. So that was most rewarding to us. And as it was said, those things will be addressed coming up, and look for some different information that we might have to share with you also. And so I'm excited about another session of Under the Gold Dome.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to do a little switch up. We're going to introduce our guest shortly. But why don't we go ahead and, because I'm trying to get myself situated here. And Senator, you want to go ahead and go first? Let's go around.
Sure. I'm happy to do that. Well, I actually wanted to just share, this is more informational, but it feeds directly into really a national debate that is happening around the country. And that is a discussion about unemployment benefits, and particularly the ending of federal unemployment benefits. Just yesterday, our Governor Kemp, along with our State Labor Commissioner, Mark Butler, did a press release and announcement letting us know that the federal unemployment benefits, that extra $300 check that people have been getting, they will no longer be accepting those dollars from the federal government. And so that program will end in June, Saturday, June 26th. It was slated to end in September. And so it will end kind of prematurely in June. Our governor joins 11 other governors in really GOP-led states to opt out of those federal unemployment benefits for our citizens. And so, I have a lot of stats that I can give you, but really at the heart of this is that there is a national debate happening. And the question at hand is, are government programs incentivizing people to not work, or are they actually helping people who would otherwise work? Mm-hmm. And when we frame things in an either or, which is kind of how this debate is being framed, I think you'll find pretty quickly that there are plenty of people who actually really do need those benefits that they're getting, have been heavily relying on them, and are not necessarily and are in fact looking for jobs, but are finding themselves to either be underemployed or not able to find jobs. And so that's kind of the raging debate. just to set the stage for our conversation, because I really want to just talk with everybody here about this, a couple of things to recognize. From March of 2020 to now, 4.6 million Georgians have turned to unemployment benefits to help them survive and get through this what really was caused by the pandemic, but help them get through. 4.6 million, of course, that's out of 10.7 million people in Georgia. So that's really quite a bit. And when you strip that number even further, so that you're not counting somebody two times, like I didn't have a job and then I got one and then I got let go again. So if you don't double count a single individual, the percentage really rises, and it's really closer to 60% of Georgia's pre-pandemic labor force have really turned to and relied on unemployment benefits that they've gotten. Of course, some have been from the state, and we can talk about that. But many have been from the federal government through the stimulus checks, and again, that extra $300. What we are also finding, let's just talk for a moment about equity and what that's looked like. In February of this year, unemployment claims for Black Georgians have been 52% higher than for all other filers, and that does mean that it's 71% higher than white Georgians. Hispanic and Black women have experienced at least a 15% underemployment, since the pandemic. And so as we think about recovery and as we think about what should happen next, kind of coming out of the pandemic, there is the need, I believe, for us to also think about how do we do this equitably? How do we equitably support folks' entry back into the workplace? And kind of this is not tangential to this. Because these are all things interconnected, but women also, especially, I want to just point out for a moment that nationally, we are seeing that women have come out of the workforce in droves over the course of this past year. Some of that is driven by childcare, and that's true of any families, but childcare, lack of childcare, and particularly as students were virtual and going to school virtually, and they couldn't leave their children at home alone. And so we have this kind of continued issue that is happening. Claims, I will say, on the women piece, in April, just last month, unemployment claims in our state were increased 2% for women, while they decreased 11% for men. So I want to read to you just a statement from the governor so that you will know what he said, which is this: during truly unprecedented times, hardworking Georgians have stayed resilient, and businesses of all sizes have quickly adapted to an unpredictable environment. Even in the middle of a global pandemic, job growth and economic development in Georgia remain strong, including an unemployment rate below the national average. So to build on our momentum and accelerate a full economic recovery and get more Georgians back to work in good paying jobs, our state will end its participation in the federal COVID-19 unemployment programs effective June 26th. As we emerge from this pandemic, Georgians deserve to get back to normal, and today's announced economic recovery plan will help more employees and businesses across our state do so. On the business piece, because I think that this is important, and as we discuss it, I just don't want to leave the business piece out of the conversation. We can look at the decisions that the governor is making, and we can really question it. But it's also interesting statistics, because if you talk to Georgia business owners, 61% of them are saying that they're having trouble hiring, and 67% of those blame federal programs. Half of that 67% definitely say that it's the $300 checks, but 29% of them point to the stimulus checks as being a reason why they're unable to actually hire workers and find people who are willing and or ready to get back to work. So we're also set up with this kind of pro-business versus pro-worker And it's like every time we find ourselves in these black and whites, right? And everything is in the gray. I mean, it's clear, but when we set it up as these dichotomy of, it's either pro-business or pro-worker. It's either people are lazy and just happy to sit at home, or people just really need to get up and work. And there's so much that lives in the between of those scenarios, especially when you think about individual on a family by family basis and what is happening with people. So I throw it out and just get you guys' response to what is happening here, but also nationally.
So thank you for bringing this up. I think it's a disgrace. And I think that when you try to politicize our citizens, our constituents' needs, that's when we run into a problem. First, it was Medicaid expansion. You didn't want to do that because we had a Democrat in the White House, and you didn't want to take the money. And we saw across this whole state of Georgia was bleeding, hurting, and is still doing the same because of the refusal to assist, because it came from a Democrat. Now we see that because a Democratic president again has offered assistance, you refuse that. The Republicans are refusing to help their constituents and citizens in the state of Georgia. I'm baffled. I'm disgusted. I'm upset. And I'm hurt for our people, all people in the state of Georgia, that you think these people had a job prior to this happening. They didn't create this problem. They didn't stay home because they wanted to. They were working every day, going to work, feeding their families, taking care of their children, making sure that they were contributing to society. And now that there's a pandemic, they're in trouble, they're behind, and Mark Butler has decided that the backup is too overwhelming for him to get the money in the pockets of our citizens, that they are lazy and they want to stay home. No, that lays squarely at the feet of Mark Butler, the Commissioner of Department of Labor. And then you eliminate the amount of money they can get now. I have people calling in, like all of us do. They're calling, they're emailing. We try to reach out. The governor had even assigned a person. When I raised it to him, I said, Governor Kim, you have the Commissioner of Department of Labor who is unwilling to respond to state legislators, who is unwilling to respond to congressional legislators. He will not respond to the Legislative Black Caucus. You are the only one at this point, because you are his boss, to get him to be responsive to our constituents with regards to their money. It's their money. They work for it. They're entitled to it. And so he did at that juncture assign someone, but guess what? It worked. It panned out to be the same thing. That person wasn't doing and can't do any more than what we were doing, just sending the information in. So you want to now turn it around to the people that have lost their homes, lost their jobs, lost their cars, can't feed their family, and say they're lazy. When one person, I know just the other day, you owe over $9,000 to. I am outraged. Totally outraged.
All right. Well, yeah, and understandably, we are in a very awkward situation where a lot of people didn't even get their benefits. They still, every day I probably get 15, 20 email messages asking me for help. to get these benefits. So it's a bad situation. But hopefully, the information that you are provided will help some of these people to get what they deserve, what they are entitled to. Let's go on to our next topic now.
Can we, do you
And
want to read, any of the comments that have come up?
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Okay, I'm just going to read. Okay, let's see. Rodney Littles, hello, good report, Senator. Kevin Grimes says, I've never seen so many handwritten "we're hiring" signs posted on retail doors and windows. There you have it. Maybe the $300 benefit is impacting certain industries and folks are trying to use it as a broad brush issue when its disparate impact is pretty narrow and isolated. And Debbie Fields Harris, hello. Why doesn't the state rate? Oh, sorry. Rodney James Little says the minimum wage in Georgia is $5.15 per hour. Who can live off of 40 hours a week at a $206 per week? Deborah Fields Harris, why doesn't the state raise its minimum wage to at least match the federal rate, if not higher, since Georgia is so economic focused? Yeah.
Okay. Did we get them all?
Yeah, yes, so far. Rodney Littles, elect William Bodie Labor Commissioner in 2022.
I can't see them on my device, unfortunately.
Yes.
All right.
Everything so far.
Well, let's do this because it's interesting that we're talking about unemployment and benefits and our rights to these benefits is not like we're getting a gift. And that can take us right into our next topic, which is about reparations. We've had in this country many different ethnic groups that have been mistreated, and most have had some sort of reparation or some sort of repayment for the loss that they underwent because of what the government did. And one of the young ladies that's been focused on this topic, Tamara Johnson, she is with us today, and she's been traveling the whole state talking about reparations and talking about the need for this country to own up to the things that they've done to people of African descent for all of these years. They talked about the 40 acres and a mule. Quite frankly, I'm not sure that I could use a mule right now, but I can sure use the 40 acres and do something with it. And whatever the equivalent of a mule is right now, we can go with that too. So with that, Tamara, why don't you talk about the work that you've been doing and talk about this event that's coming up and let folks know what's going on. Tamara?
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to share HB 541. This is actually, I call it monumental legislation, and I want to applaud you, Representative Bruce, for taking this bull by the horn and introducing this legislation, because this is a topic that we don't have to shy away from. We are literally in the moment, and reparations is not just an opportunity here in Georgia, but it's a national conversation. We have HR 40 over in the House. We have S40 over in the Senate. We have AB 3121, which is California's initiative for reparations. We have the city of Evanston, Illinois, that's introduced some local legislation to address their form of reparations with housing and discrimination and redlining. We have Asheville, North Carolina. We have Oregon, New Jersey. So there's been these initiatives that have preceded us here in the state of Georgia. But I'm just so glad, and I again want to thank you, Representative Roger Bruce, for being fearless enough to have this conversation in Georgia, a state where the Republicans don't really want to have this conversation, but there's a way to do it, and this is some good bipartisan legislation. I have traveled the state introducing HB 541. I traveled the state as a candidate talking about reparations as well. So the narrative is not new to Georgians. I think what it does need is a lot of support. It will take a lot of educating our Georgians about why this is important and it can really happen. So HB 541 is monumental legislation. Thank you again, Representative Bruce, for introducing it. We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Wait a minute. All right. Let's talk about the event that you have coming up.
Reparations Sunday. Reparations Sunday. You know, reparations is Juneteenth is June 18th. Friday, June 18th. There's a rally at the Capitol that's happening. 11 a.m. at the Capitol, where we're, a lot of United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen will be sponsoring that. I will be there. Representative Roger Bruce, you're scheduled to be there to talk about HB 541 as well. That weekend, there's a lot of celebrations. I read that the city of Stone Mountain actually has a Juneteenth celebration happening that weekend. But Reparation Sunday is an event where we are calling on the churches. We're calling on the churches to have this conversation with their congregation, introduce this bill, share this bill, and share why reparations is needed and why we're in our moment.
Give the time and the date. Give the details so that whoever's watching can put it on their calendar.
Reparation Sunday is Sunday, June 20th. Yep, Sunday, June 20th. I believe that date is right. June 20th, we're just calling all churches to bring this message to their congregation. Reparations is our redress. It is an opportunity for Georgia, HB 541, for Georgia to address the impact that slavery and Jim Crow has had on Georgia. This is an opportunity for Georgia to take a deep dive into what has happened to us as a people and what is continuing to happen to us as a people. And going back to what Representative Bazemore and Senator Halpern were mentioning about the $300, the unemployment, why we're in the state that we're in and why those dollars are so important and why we need it. There's a historical reason to why we're in the situation that we're in, and Georgia, has played a part in that. And this is this legislation, I believe, we can have that conversation. And I think Republicans, if approached correctly, when I talk about this bill to Republicans, I really honestly, and conservatives, I really keep my emotions out of it. They are not emotionally tied to reparations like we are, those of us who are descendants of slavery. This is our lineage. This is, this is our family. This is our history. So we have an emotional tie to it. But when I have that conversation with Republicans and conservatives, I keep my emotions out of it. And I talk about, how this would stimulate the economy. If there's some dollars, which there should be, and there needs to be, reparations has a cost to it. So as monies are distributed to those of us who are descendants of slavery, those dollars will go right back into the economy. It's not like Black people will take those dollars and put it under the mattress. We're going to spend those dollars. So I talk dollars and cents to them and how it will stimulate the economy. They tend to talk about tax burdens, lowering their tax burden. This is an opportunity to lower your tax burden. It'll get more of us, on the right track. I also talk about the reallocation or the elimination of social programs. There's a way to have a conversation with our conservative brothers and sisters and Republicans. We just have to keep our emotions out of it and make dollars and cents.
All right. Let me ask you this. I know that the purpose of the bill is to set up a methodology for determining what reparations looks like. But do you have some thought already as to what you think they should look like?
Well, you talked about those 40 acres and a mule that we're owed. I want my 40 acres. I don't necessarily need a mule, but I would like a tractor. Give me a tractor. I would like to have a field and a big old garden. And you'll see me out there on my tractor. So give me my 40 acres and a tractor. I would like to see land. I've heard all kinds of different conversations about how reparations could be distributed, whether it be, taxes, whether it be, elimination of college student loan debt. I mean, it could be a myriad of things, and it honestly has to be everything. So I don't put we can't put a Band-Aid on this. This is going to take some, a lot to really address what has happened to those of us who are descendants of slavery.
All right. Senator or Representative, you have any comments on this?
I believe she did an excellent job presenting the issues. And I'm so excited that you asked me to partner with you and be a co-signer on your bill, because I believe that it is time. I understand we got an apology, but there was a caveat in there. I don't expect anything other than an apology. But now we do expect something, because you have acknowledged other ethnicities and groups of people, and you have provided them with financial, in different ways, financially blessed them in different ways. So I don't understand why, because we built this great country, that you can't acknowledge and provide us the same thing. Thank you so much, Tamara.
Can I ask you, you mentioned at the very beginning a couple of other, you mentioned HB 541, but you mentioned a couple of other bills as well. Will you give us the names of those again and tell us, I think you mentioned some at the federal level, correct?
S40.
A little bit about those as well and where those are at the moment.
Yeah, we've made a lot of great strides in this country. HR 40 was introduced back in the 80s. John Conyers, God bless his soul, has passed on, and Sheila Jackson Lee has taken the torch and reintroduced this bill. So this HR 40 has been introduced for 30 plus years, and finally this year has passed out of the Judiciary Committee and is on its way to the House floor. I've seen articles where they anticipate it being around Juneteenth, which is, even more of, monumental, that we might have a vote on this legislation in a month or so. So this is exciting. S40 still sits in the U.S. Senate. I'm hopeful to see Raphael Warnock, and I'm hopeful to see John Ossoff put their names on S40 and champion it for those of us who are descendants of slaves. But we're here with HR 40, and we're living in a time, and I pray that all of us live to see reparations actually happen for those of us who are descendants of slaves. So S40 over in the U.S. Senate and HR 40 in the House.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Well, we really appreciate you joining us today, and you're welcome to stay on, as we go through our final phase of the program. And feel free to participate, if you have a question about anything that's being said. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Can I read one comment though before we close out this conversation?
Sure. Absolutely.
I want to read Rodney Little's. You were talking before, Tamara, about all those facts, not some fun facts, and how many years, decades this work has been ongoing, and we're still not at the finish line on that. And he says, due to the history of 400 years of racism and economic oppression by the powers to be in this country, African Americans have only 2% of the nation's wealth. And due to the history, that's as a result of the voided promise to receive 40 acres and a mule after the emancipation to the 4 million former African American slaves as an ethnic group, we have 1.6 million less jobs held by African Americans, 1.4 million less African American owned businesses, and 1 trillion less revenue into African American owned businesses. And so all in, as an ethnic group, we have $8 trillion less wealth than we should have had if the 40 acres and a mule promise had been kept from one president to another. And I think that really just kind of underscores how generation after generation after generation for 400 years, we have been denied wealth building opportunity that is transferable to the next generation. And when you look at it in a totality, that's what it looks like, trillions of dollars.
That's sad. All right. With that, were there any other comments? I
No.
can't see it. Unfortunately, on my device, I can't see the comments
Yeah.
right now.
No.
Okay.
No, we're good. We can move on.
All right. Representative Bazemore.
Okay. So I don't know how many of you caught this news clip a couple of weeks ago, where there was a principal in Florida spanking, paddling a 6-year-old child in school. And her assistant actually positioned the child, and then she proceeded to paddle the child. And then as the news report went on, it said, in Georgia, we have that law on the book. That was quite concerning to me. So I just dug into it a little bit. So if you look at Georgia law, OCGA, sections 24-5, 501, and 28-431, you will see that this corporal punishment, as they call it, is allowed in this day and age. That's quite concerning. So we have in Georgia 180 school districts. Even though it is in law, not all school districts choose to use that type of punishment. However, there still are some. And because it's law, those individuals that decide to use this will not be indicted, punished, brought up on charges or anything. My concern was, we as parents, if we paddle our children or spank our children, we can be called, CPS can be called on us, and we can be charged. The kids can be taken out of our home, but you can have people in the schools paddling your child for something that they did in school. That truly baffled me. So as I was digging in, I see that before they can paddle your child, there has to be a principal, the principal, assistant principal, or their designee present when the paddling is going on. Those are the ones that have to be involved. And a notice goes to the parent to inform the parent what is about to happen. And they can get an explanation if they ask for one. It doesn't always come with the notice. The parents that I found will allow this to happen are normally in the rural areas. And so what I found in talking to Ledge Council, and this individual was in a school district, that in rural counties and areas, it's because it's small and usually everybody knows everybody. They go to church together and they trust those individuals to spank their children. But this is a law for the whole state of Georgia. Normally, the larger counties, schools, they will not allow that. But it's still law. So if it does occur, you would have a hard time fighting that issue. One of the things that came up when this issue came up when I was watching it is that the parent was videotaping. But in Florida, you have to inform a person that you're videotaping or recording them. But here I found out you don't have to. But if it comes down to this issue and it goes to court, then it could be deemed unadmissible. In this day and age, my concern is that a parent, and I can speak for me, I don't have small children, but I have grandchildren. And if I heard that someone in the school had paddled my grandchild, I would probably not be a state representative anymore, and you would probably be hearing about me in the news. So that's my concern too, because if a parent is not allowed to do anything, this is state law, and then they go to take action, take up for their child, that parent now is going to get charged. That parent now could possibly wind up in jail, and that parent possibly could have their children taken away from them. This is an arcade. You had a question?
Yeah, well, things have changed significantly. You know, I know I'm older than everybody on this on this Zoom, because when I was a kid, teacher knocked you out, and when you got home, you got knocked out again for whatever you did while you were in school. But I know times have changed. So, what does appropriate discipline, look like now?
So let me back up and say that I don't know how many people know, but in New York, I worked in a school district. And even then it was sketchy. You would not put your hands on a child. What they do say is that if the teacher is trying to coax a child to redirect them, then that's their grounds right there. They can say, I was just redirecting the child, and it's not corporal punishment. But it's real difficult. I had this conversation earlier, and even in my position in New York, conflict resolution coordinator, and I did home visits. But if a fight broke out, so I'm 6 feet tall and not too scary, and I jump in the middle and I'm trying to save or protect both parties. And if I push a little hard or do some damage, I may be found guilty or not, depending on what the law is in that state. So I think it boils down to what the specific incident in that type case. But when it's blatant, there's no excuse. And also that they allow you at the beginning of the year when you register your child to opt out. But how many parents know that this is a law? They give you a student handbook and it's under the code of conduct. But how many parents really on the first day you are registering your child for school, they give you the book. Are you going to sit down then and read through the whole book to see what you're signing? Most parents won't. They have to go back to work, or they have some other obligations, have other children they have to register. So I believe parents need to understand that this law is out there. But let me say this. I have already started working with Ledge Council to change this law and to make it so that it's informative, but then restrictive also when it comes to the protection of our children. So I don't know, like he said to me, like in the city of Atlanta and Fulton County and different well, that's Fulton County, but bigger schools, you don't see that much. So we can hang our hat on that. However, if it does occur, then what are the consequences? So like I said, we are working on it right now. I don't want to wait until November to pre-file. I want to get it done because there's some areas, you don't know what the repercussions would be if you change it to total restriction. but they also do allow you to bring in a doctor's note for any children that this might affect mentally or physically, that they cannot be disciplined in that way. So what are your
This is
thoughts?
yeah, I think this is such a great topic. And one of the questions that Roger asked, Representative Bruce asked just before was, what does appropriate disciplinary action look like now? And really, this is one of the issues that we dealt with tangentially just this past session, because there was a bill that was talking very specifically about the disciplinary ratings. So schools across the state have a rating system, and discipline is part of the overall rating of school climate. So that school climate rating includes discipline. We have actually, just in the laws that got passed out of the House and the Senate and signed by the governor, now takes away that behavioral, that discipline piece out of the school climate rating, which is important to note also. So if you want to know, if you believe that how kids are disciplined is an important piece of what you need to know for the school overall school climate, you can still get that information. It will eventually need to be on the website of the school. You can ask for it at the front, so you can get it. But there separately is this extra kind of carrot that I'm going to say that our school systems have in terms of the rating of the schools and the school climates. And when they are really executing on that kind of positive discipline approach, that there are extra kind of points that they get that turns into extra dollars that they get as a school. And they are incentivized to actually handle discipline in a more positive manner, which would mean certainly not corporal punishment of children.
And I like the comment that Michael Carson made, because that was in the discussion I had earlier too. It's like, no child should be hit, especially by an adult, not their parent, guardian. It can quickly turn into assault or abuse. And that was the discussion I had earlier before the show. Once you let the horse out of the barn, you don't know how that child is going to react. And so if they react in a negative way, it can be very harmful to many people. And like I said earlier, I used to jump in the middle because, like I said, my height and my relationship. But a lot of people are not going to do that. And so who's going to stop and protect the children? And you're talking about a teacher and a child, because nobody wants to run the risk of charges being filed against them. Nobody. So it's a very touchy situation. And hopefully we can craft some changes to that law that will be beneficial for both sides. Because like I said, I worked in school. I know there are some children that definitely need to be disciplined, but we have to find a different way to do it. And conflict resolution was one, because I did have one situation where it was not just child on student on student. I had to mediate a teacher and a child. And it was very effective and very beneficial.
Yeah, times are changing, and we have to come up with new ways of doing things that were done in the past. And that's a touchy subject, and that's probably something that we need to have a continued conversation about. Senator, before we wrap up, you want to kind of give a quick synopsis of what took place yesterday? Yes. And what it meant for the citizens of South Fulton?
Yes, yesterday was just an incredible culmination of multiple years' effort and I'm going to point to Representative Roger Bruce, who who from the beginning of the founding of City of South Fulton, and Representative Bazemore as well, from the very beginning of the founding of the City of South Fulton, there was an expectation that Fulton Industrial District, Fulton Industrial Boulevard, would be annexed into that city. Because it was part of the remaining unincorporated Fulton County. When the city was chartered, though, that was not possible. There were some legal blockages and obstacles that first had to be fought and overcome. And then really in the legislature, there have been many years of inability for a number of different reasons to be able to get that done and get that district annexed into the City of South Fulton. Representative Bruce has been leading this effort every year, authoring the bill to annex that portion of that last remaining portion of unincorporated Fulton into the city. And this year, I was able to join him in that charge and really lead the efforts in making sure that that happened and passed out of the Senate. And so we worked in tandem, hand in hand, this entire session to try to get this over the finish line. And we were able to do it. So we were able to get bipartisan. Well, he's always been great at being able to get the bipartisan support in the House. We've had more challenges on the Senate side getting that support. And so we were able to do it this year and really brought the parties together to have a conversation. The complexity of this issue is that you've got City of South Fulton, you've got City of Atlanta that has an interest, you've got Fulton County, and of course you've got Fulton County Public Schools as well that has an interest in the outcome. And so we kind of were able to pull those parties together and come to an agreement. And ultimately the City of South Fulton has annexed in everything on Fulton Industrial Boulevard south of I-20. And we have a bill that has also been dropped that we ran out of time this legislative session to see all the way through, that will annex in north of I-20, excluding Charlie Brown Airport, which Fulton County will retain, into the City of Atlanta. And yesterday was the ribbon cutting. Yesterday was a celebration following the governor's signature on Monday afternoon, making it official. So we were all three of us together yesterday afternoon for the ribbon cutting ceremony. And it was a very great occasion. And it is an extraordinarily exciting time for the City of South Fulton. Representative Bruce, you're on mute.
All right. They keep putting me on mute. I don't know why. Somebody else is doing that. But anyway, Deborah, did you have something you wanted to say?
So I just wanted to I made mention of this prior, this mental health check-in that I'm going to have. And I partnered with NAMI, and I just wanted everybody to go to the site and sign up. It is next Monday, May 18th. And it is because, and there's the flyer, it's because we have been really shut in and away from family, from friends, just from human touch. I'm a hugger. And, you know, it takes a toll on you when you can't have that touch and communication with other individuals. And I think our children are suffering. So we have to check in on our family and friends and our children to make sure they're okay. And these are the experts, they know. So we're going to break out into different rooms and to just have the candid conversations. And I wouldn't put you in a room that would not have an expert in that age group or that subject matter. So please sign up. Just want to make sure our family and friends are okay. And if they need help, there's help to be had.
All right. Tamara, any last words?
Just encourage you to go to the website, HB541. I'm wearing the t-shirt, hb541.net. Go to the website, read the bill. Like I said, this is phenomenal legislation, and support these efforts. It's going to take a lot of educating Georgians to really see how beneficial this could be for us. So go to the website again, hb541.net.
And I wear extra large. Seems like I ought to have one of those shirts.
It's on the way. I got you.
All right.
Okay, me too.
Okay.
And I want to apologize for all the technical difficulties that I had today. Normally, this works out just fine, but hopefully we'll, be okay next week. But this is, important information that you received today. And, we try each week to make sure that we give you information that you wouldn't find somewhere else. And, we welcome any suggestions that you, as our audience, may have on topics that you'd like us to address. So feel free to give us the information and share it with us. And with that, we're going to kind of bring it to a close and look forward to seeing you again next week. Tamara, thank you for joining us. And you're welcome to come back anytime as we go through this process and be a part of what we're doing. So thanks again. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Under the Gold Dome.
Hold on.
Have a
Take
great
care
weekend.
now.
God bless.